Hello, everyone. How's everyone? Um, this is the day that I posted the email. I sent you the email about maybe being exposed to the coronavirus. Let's hope. I'm I'm not interested in being sick, especially as sick as some of these people have been with the virus. Okay, so I'm not going to be sick. I want to make just a few comments, if I may, about the Kafka writing assignment. I am probably the only English professor who takes like 5 pages to write a writing assignment. I've been editing this thing, trying to refine it and revise it and revise it for like 4 days now. I thought I had it last night. I felt victorious, went downstairs to have dinner, and printed out a copy and started reading it while I had a bowl of soup, and I found so much I didn't like. So I wrote it again. So, okay, folks, I want to give you some comments about the writing assignment in case there is some confusion. I hope there's not, but in case there is some confusion about um, anything that I've written. Um, Here's the problem. As you know, we're talking about three texts here. We're talking about the um, obviously our story, an old manuscript, ein altes Blatt, and we're talking about the judgment, which I discuss in the lectures, and we're talking about letter to his father, which was actually a letter he wrote to his father, but never actually made it to his father. So when it was published, it was just published as letter to his father. He never meant it to be published. He meant it to go to his father and explain how pissed off he was that his father had treated him, in his opinion, so poorly all of those years. Okay, so as I think I made clear in the lecture, an old manuscript is really a metaphorical exploration of Franz's problematic relationship with his father. I'm not going to repeat what I discussed in the lecture. If you need to review that, go back to the lecture. Um, Here's the problem. Kafka talks about guilt and blame. When he talks about the nomads in the capital city that are occupying the capital city, he does not mean that those nomads equal his father. That's not what he means. He's simply trying to capture in the nomads a particular sensibility that he particularly hates in his father, and that is his barbaric nature, his crude nature, his unrefined nature, his anti intellectualism, his insensitivity. Um, the fact that he dominated, like the nomads dominate every aspect of life in the capital city, and we assume elsewhere in the country as well. Hermann Kafka dominated every aspect of Franz's life. Now, in the story, an old manuscript, the cobbler says that the nomads are not to blame for the shit they pull in the city. They keep the butcher cleaned out of meat, and they take what they want. They grab what they want from the other merchants and artisans. And just as a matter of course, the citizens stand aside and let them. The cobbler says, no, this is just the way they are. They can't be blamed. They're not guilty. Although he doesn't use, I don't think, in an old manuscript, I don't think he uses the word guilt, but please correct me if I'm mistaken about that. I don't think he does. However, he does use the word guilt in a letter to his father. He says that although his father has treated him, like shit all of these many years, he doesn't really believe that the father is guilty of anything, despite him being an asshole in so many ways. Why? Because he says it is his nature, that it is Hermann Kafka's nature to be an asshole. That's what he means. And you can't be blamed, he suggests, if you're just by nature an asshole. Same thing about the nomads. They're crude barbarians. Nature made them that way. They are crude barbarians. So don't be too surprised when they act like crude barbarians in the capital. Now, we come to the problem of evil. Evil, as I said in the text of the assignment, we can understand evil as the intentional destruction of people, or the intentional causing of grave harm to people. Question: is Hermann Kafka evil? Are the nomads evil? Kafka uses this language of blame, this language of guilt. He does not use the language of evil. How are we to think about the presence of evil in these texts? If it is in the nature of nomads to pillage a city, it does cause grave harm to the citizens, to the city. Yes? And the citizens are afraid that if worse comes to worse, the butcher runs out of meat, that the nomads may cannibalize the citizens. So there is that fear. It's not entirely misplaced, that fear. So is it possible? Here's where the problem arises. Is it possible for a person to engage in behaviors that do harm or destroy people, but not be, in Kafka's words, guilty or to blame, and yet be evil? How, in this Kafkaesque world, are we to think about evil in conjunction with these concepts of guilt and blame? If you are not to blame because you're doing stuff out of your nature that you can't help, does that mean you can't possibly be accused of evil? Is it possible to be without blame and still do evil? This is the problem. This is the problem. As I've said before to you, I think I teach a course on the nature of evil. And I'm very interested in the problem of human evil. I would be. I study the Holocaust. I'm a Holocaust studies scholar.